All right, welcome to i3 Business Solutions Microsoft Teams presentation. We'll try and accomplish this in less than a half hour. Tim Nass at my right side here is our Office 365 Teams SharePoint specialist, and my name's Mike Ritzema, and we're going to go through Teams with you today. And I always like to pause for a moment and consider, what are we trying to do? What's the challenge? And with all of the financial systems, ERP systems, DRP, we've got email, we've got Excel, we've got bits, bytes, smartphones, iPads, tablets. My goodness, now we have Internet of Things, social media, etc. What are we trying to do in business? What are we trying to accomplish in the business? And I submit it's four things, and that is productivity. Could we do more than with less? That's why we acquire tools and technology, to improve productivity. But certainly we want to be sustainable or profitable as an organization. How can we be different than the other guys? And then lastly, risk mitigation. We want to manage risk, financial risk, physical risk, and technological risk. Tim will talk a little bit about how Teams and Office 365 contributes to that. But that's what we're trying to accomplish in business results. So we're trying to accelerate business results. Could we go faster and get better results? And that involves people, process, and technology. I always say the technology is easy. It really does work. But moving people to change the process, well, that is a bit of a challenge. And then secondly, at i3, intelligent information integration, not islands. We rail against islands of information. So if we can find a platform that pulls together information rather than disparate system, islands of information like Slack, and then some sort of a project management program like Asana, etc. Multiple logins, different logins for all these different platforms. My goodness, if we can pull it together and remove islands of information, Dropbox, etc., that's a good thing. But I want to go back a minute and say, remember the old days? Okay, I'm sorry, I do. And that was 800 conference calls. That's the way we got people together. We used 1-800 free conference calling and got 6-8 people on a conference call. And then we were concerned about them spending 15 cents a minute to be on a conference call. These things changed. We used to FedEx contracts at IBM because you could not accept a faxed version. And then that changed, and you could actually fax the contract in, but you had to get to the location of the customer, ask them to sign the contract, then fax it in. Could you just sign it and fax it in? That was a requirement. Remember when you had to try and schedule meetings and you couldn't do it today, you did it tomorrow? That's changing. And then, or send a group email and wait for people to respond. Are there ways to move faster in business and get better responses? And yes, there are. And technology marches on. It's always improving. And certainly mobile and social are a big part of that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But 45% of employees today use social tools in some ways. 4 times as many devices as previously. We're all carrying multiple devices, accessing technology in different ways. We've got 5 generations in the workplace, and they want to work differently. I'll tell the story right now. I was in a meeting just a week and a half ago, and I said, I'll go get John. And this young lady said, I just asked him to come in. And I looked over, she had her cell phone, she was on Teams, and she hit the employee and he walked in a minute later. This is not the world I'm living in. People are working differently today. So team-based collaboration, we are on 2 times the number of teams we were in years past. Collaboration is just escalating. So most of us are using Office 365. You're on this call, you're probably using Office 365. So you have these things. Certainly you have Outlook and Exchange. And many of us are aware of Teams, maybe not using SharePoint, might be using OneNote, heard of it, don't know what Streams is. And these things come together. So I'll turn it over to Tim, who will explain how they come together in Teams.
So yeah, so as part of a graphical representation here, what we're seeing with Teams is meant to be this addressing the idea of creating a hub or a collaboration space where we can have better communication and better interaction with the different applications that are in Office 365, and a way to just keep that communication going. So all the applications in Exchange, Office that you use, Planner, OneNote, there's different ways in the application to bring that together and be more collaborative. So as we move on, the main thing about Microsoft as being the hub of teamwork is that the main function is that it's there to give the ability to communicate, and it communicates in many different ways, as far as through regular chat, which can be either one-on-one or one with a group. There's also meetings that we can have, which we'll get into some when we do the demo as well. And there's also calling, which is an option, different licensing for different ways to do it while you're in there. Oh, did I go through that? Collaborate. And then with the collaboration, there's a structure for teams and channels, ways to break up different levels of communication so that we're not have to yell to everybody all at the same time, that we kind of break things down in departments and groups that we can use. But that also gives you the ability, you see from this page, is to integrate applications like being able to share an Excel spreadsheet in your conversation, making it easier for everybody to find a document that they're looking for, whether it be just for this project they're working on, and go from there. And then also there's the ability for a lot of customized and extended applications. These applications come from all kinds of different third parties that you might be using already, and it's a way to bring them in because as kind of a hub, it's meant to be a place where you can kind of offer up the tools and the information and the way to bring everything so that when your employees come in, they have an option for a place to actually go and find the information they're looking for.
Yeah, Tim, page up one time. Yeah, I see Asana on there. I don't know what Asana is. It's a productivity app. I hear people talking about it. But yeah, it's integrated to Teams. Exactly.
You can bring in stuff like LinkedIn, Salesforce, all of those if you're already using them. And a lot of them have integration apps to make things even easier to communicate back and forth between what you're doing in Office and with those applications themselves. And you can work with confidence. Everything in the Office 365 suite, especially with Microsoft Teams, will make sure that it's compliant and gives you the security levels that you're looking for. We use it in many different industries at this point.
Yes.
So again, the main function here, and I talked a little bit about it, we'll go through this quick and then we'll go into the demo, but communication through chat. There is the idea of having private chats, which is just a one-on-one conversation with anybody in your company. You can also chat with people outside of your company as well. So there's different ways there. You can have larger group chats with different people within your company, and all of those are selectable and chosen by you as you go through it. You can also share information in a transparent way. Again, as we talk about, this page is showing us a chat session where, again, you can bring more people in and you can see the files that they're looking at and what that conversation is. So maybe two of you have had a conversation and have been going for a day or two. You have an option to add another person in onto that conversation, let them see where it's at. Part of the difference between this and what we've done in the past is like, through Microsoft Office and doing email, that would have been a large thread of conversations going through and saying, hey, let's bring in somebody else, and then having to walk through all those emails. So again, let's try to get some of it away from your email and put it into a place where it can be more readily reviewed by everybody and then have more people pull in and see it. And again, there's quick access to the apps, the ones that you already use, conversations, files, sharing and co-authoring. If you're already using Office 365, you're probably familiar with some of the, collaborating with the files themselves and working on the same files at the same time. What Teams does is, again, give you ability to bring it into one location so that you can, again, share one file with somebody and then have everybody collaborate in that one space. And we'll get into a little bit about the communication that's in there as far as being able to communicate with multiple people. This function that we're doing today, as far as giving this webinar as part of Teams, being able to stream this out to multiple people. But the same technology gives you the ability to quickly have a one-on-one, face-to-face conversation with somebody who's remotely in a different location.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got one employee, Tom, works out of his home office. And lately when I connect with Tom, I'll hit him on Teams, video chat. He's very comfortable with that, but he's started using his iPhone. Yeah. So he just likes communicating with the iPhone, with the camera, and having a conversation. So very powerful for, either the iPhone or the laptop in video.
Mm-hmm. And again, you have the option of, these can be voice chat calls. All these are options at this point. I don't know, was there something else we wanted to say on that part at this point?
I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. And nowadays, there's many different devices that can be used with Teams. Your mobile phones, the PCs, a lot of them that once you get into using Teams, it has a lot of easy interface as far as finding the people, the groups, and the rest of what you're looking for. So the newer style desk phones with touch screens help make that interface that much easier if you need something like a physical device that's on the machine itself.
Yeah, and Tim, you're helping a customer implement a Lenovo conference room system.
Yep,
right
one
now.
of the new room systems right now that works really well. It makes it real easy to be able to schedule a meeting for a group, whereas when you walk into the room, that device is ready for the meeting. You click on basically one button and it starts the meeting for you, gives you good audio and a way to interact and people be able to show video through it and the rest of it. And like we said, there's many different devices to use as far as desk phone. A lot of times today, a lot of people are getting rid of the desk phones and really going with doing something with just the PC itself. So that's just using some type of headset or the microphone on your laptop. Many different ways that you can do it, but the idea that it can be very versatile. Teams, again, we said also works on the mobile phone, works very conveniently on the mobile phone for those conversations and for those meetings as well. I think.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and say that, a big change in the way we live our lives. Some of us come out of a hierarchical world, and certainly I do. I just, I have folder systems in Outlook, and I like to organize my personal files in a very sequential, organized manner. But that's not the way we work on the web. And so when we go to the web, we don't say, hey, I'm going to go to this site and then search for, go hierarchical down to find what I'm looking for. No, we just search for it. And that's the change in Office 365 many of us are living through, and it's tough for me. I'm learning. But rather than where'd you put that file, I can't find it, is just search for it. And Office 365 is searching the content of every file and will present that to you. So we move from hierarchy to search as we move into Office 365 and into Teams. So let's take a look. Let's take a risk here and take a look at Teams at i3 Business Solutions and see how much we expose to you here. And oh yeah, we have to take a risk here because we're working in Teams. This presentation is in Teams, so I have to get to the chat portion. So this is an example of a chat. I mean, Grace, Tim, and I working on, in fact, this presentation here. When I go to a chat, I can format the chat in different ways. And certainly the title here, because I'm formatting, I get the ability to bold and so on. And then if I want to get Grace's attention and have it maybe even pop up on her desktop, I can at her, which calls her out specifically, and then give her requests or to-dos. So I can put bullets in it. I can format this in a way that I'd like. So again, the search portion is, can I search for Microsoft? And when I do a search for Microsoft, it pulls up virtually every chat that I've been involved in relative to Microsoft that's out there. So this is a very powerful tool when you're going through the hierarchy in my world. When I'm going through the hierarchy to find something, no, let's just search for it and I can quickly find it here. I wanted to mention that I can come back and edit. I can edit a chat. So I don't know about you, but I make mistakes. I post that thing and I'm like, oh crap. And I can come back and I can edit the chat, change it and improve it.
And those are all controllable as well, as far as security goes. We can turn those off if for some reason there's a compliance issue that needs to be. So there's a couple different things you can do there as well.
Yes. So if you're in an industry where you have to maintain integrity of communication, you can turn that off. No, you can't go back and edit.
Yep,
and,
absolutely.
2
you can
years
have just
later.
the owners themselves be the one who can actually edit or delete something. So once something's been put out there, it can't really be taken back unless somebody who has permission can do that as well.
Beautiful. And like Tim said,
we'll show them the status on those. Go ahead and do the people, but make sure we show them how like the status of people and where they're at is a nice thing as far as.
I'll let you do that, but certainly
goes.
we can add people to the chat and then the status.
Yep. So I just want to make sure people, if you haven't seen this, because I know Office in Outlook, this works as well too, but there's always this option that shows what the status is of a user. So like you'll see that I'm here in yellow right now, which just means that I haven't been on my laptop or using mics today. So it's just saying that I'm not busy at the moment. And then Mike has put himself on Do Not Disturb, and I know that. So even if I wasn't in this meeting, but I wondered if I could communicate with him, with the red circle with a white line tells me that he is in Do Not Disturb and he really doesn't want to be communicated. Now that'll work for his applications telling it not to interact with them right now, but it also just gives everybody a visual view that they're busy. Now, one thing that happens to me if I go here to say list of contacts is sometimes I'm up a little bit earlier doing some work, and I might want to actually communicate with somebody as soon as they get into the office and they're working. So let's say in this case, James, he is gone at the moment. Maybe he's at lunch. I can say I want it to notify me when he becomes available. And then what that'll do is that's just going to pop up a notification on the screen whenever his status changes from being not busy at the moment to actually being active. So maybe there's something I just want to quickly interact with him. So nice features that even if you're not even in the same building, it's easy to kind of reach out to know where everybody's at.
Well, you learn something new every day, and I'll be using that in the future. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So let's go back here, Tim, and if you can show us pinning and saving a chat. Maybe I can learn something new about that.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let's see, these are recent chats here. One of the things that you can do with recent chats as you create them is you do have an option to actually pin it to the top, because let's say I want to go back to this conversation. So I've got a couple of people I'm interacting with and we're working on a project that I know is only going to be a couple of weeks, but you know what, we're always going to go back to that same conversation. So I'd like to make sure that every time that we talk about it, we can keep on talking in the same thread that we had before. So I can pin it up to the top, and then I know that it's always going to be here, that I can go back to it at any time, and I can unpin it, mark it as read. If I'm automatically getting notifications, which in the system there's many different ways to set notifications, whether they do something on the screen, whether they just end up in what we call the activity, giving you notes of what's going on, or you can in some cases tell it that you want it to email you to notify you that that you just got a notification. A good example would be is that I'm away from my desktop, maybe getting lunch, somebody had something that they wanted to tell me, start a chat. Since I didn't receive the chat, it will actually email me and say, James is trying to get a hold of me. And then I know that maybe it's something I want to get back with them right away on.
Beautiful. All right, let's move straight to Teams. Again, take a risk. And I'm going to work in the all team, the general team. And so I'll collapse this and say at i3 Business Solutions right now, these are the teams we put together, and Tim does the consulting with a lot of customers. We recommend minimizing the quantity of teams and then having multiple channels. So we've got the all team, the leadership team, the sales team, the network team, and the project team. And this is where Tim is collaborating with customers. So we're starting to work more with customers. I will tell you that you can be in multiple teams, and clearly that's what Tim's doing with our customers. We're in a Microsoft team, so Microsoft has laid down the law and said there's only one way we're going to communicate with our employees internally and with partners externally, and that is Teams, not email. So that's what we're doing with Microsoft. So let's go back to that general team, and I'm going to try and, in the interest of time, I'm going to try and move quickly through this and say certainly we can chat to the entire organization here, and you can see that we're doing this. I had a little bit of fun. We were downtown looking at the ice sculptures, and I put it on Facebook and I put it in Teams. So I thought I'll just try this thing. Now, if you're familiar with OneNote or you're using OneNote, we have associated a OneNote notebook with every single part of the organization. So I like to use OneNote on the desktop. Here's an example of OneNote on the desktop, and this is the all-team OneNote. I say to i3 Business Solutions, if you're using Outlook, then I want you using OneNote. OneNote is a way to centrally share information that everybody can search and get to. It is integrated with Teams, so we have an all-team notebook, a sales team notebook, service team notebook, project team. Boy, that looks very similar, doesn't it? So OneNote is embedded right into Teams, and that's what you're seeing here, the all-team notebook. Each team has a notebook embedded. And then furthermore, we've said that we're going to have document folders that are shared to the whole organization. The folders are in Teams, which means they're in the cloud, which means they can be on my desktop. I'll show you that now. That if I go to the cloud here, this is a browser view, oh boy, of that same OneNote notebook that I showed you. And then here is the folder view of the i3 team documents. So team i3 documents are in the browser, in the cloud. They are in, let's go back to Teams. The team i3 documents are in Teams. And I want to go to the desktop because I'm a desktop guy. And I talked to some of our techs, they don't do this, but I am a desktop guy. And I want this stuff shared to the desktop. So here are the old shared file folders, the shared drive on our server. But this is my personal OneDrive. And then here we have the i3 shared documents and the team i3 documents that are in the cloud, that are in Teams, that I'm syncing to my desktop. So you can work the same way you're working and you can collaborate very effectively.
Exactly.
All right. I think that covers the team. Anything else to add to this this team portion, Tim?
I think we're good at the Teams right now. You want to try doing the calendar?
Yeah, I'll show you my calendar here once. I mean, the integration, the roadmap for Microsoft Teams gets stronger and stronger, and certainly calendar integration is here. So we're in this meeting right now. This is syncing to my Outlook calendar, and I can come here and do an immediate meeting. I can create new meetings. The calendar integration is there. I talked about Microsoft. I wanted to mention something. Here's a tip or a trick for some of you, and that is that you can, this is the Microsoft site. So some of us have a problem being in multiple teams and we have to switch. It takes 5 to 20 seconds to switch. You can run Teams in the browser. So here I'm on Microsoft in the browser, and I am on Teams on my desktop here. So multiple ways to access Teams in the cloud or on your desktop. I'm going to take a risk now, and why don't you just take a risk and make a phone call here, Tim, we'll take a risk. Show you two things. Number one, we can make a phone call here, and yes, like Tim said, everybody at i3 is using I don't think there's one desktop in the whole company. We're using headsets, or we're using the laptop and the speaker and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I can put the phone number in here, or I can do a / command and cheat and pull it up here. So I'm going to make a phone call just by typing the number in here, 616-719-4116. Take a risk on that and see if you can hear Dan answer the phone. And the answer is no. Let's not demo this at this time. We'll just stay in the live meeting.
One. Yep, absolutely.
But certainly the phone system, we've been using it for a year, and it's working.
It's been working wonderful. The idea of being able to integrate it already with the contacts that you have in Office, you know what I mean, to be able to have just all the tracking that happens with it is already integrated with all the applications that you're already using. So it makes it really nice and seamless to be in one place for doing it. And again, all those functions translate themselves into the mobile phone itself. Which again also makes things convenient. To me, I think one of the biggest things is to be able to, you know, be working on whether it be an Excel document or be in part of a chat and be able to seamlessly go from my laptop to the mobile device to I get home, and it easily can remind me what documents I was actually working in that day and pull them up from wherever I'm at. So again, it makes it really useful for the ability for people to be able to, you know, be more mobile and still do the work that they need to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're coming down the home stretch here. I'm going to take a risk again and try and show you how mobile works. As we're coming down the home stretch, I'll give you the final word in a moment here, Tim, as we start wrapping up. But this is a view of my phone, and so we've got all these Office apps available. You've got the new Office app, which gives you Word, Excel, and PowerPoint in it. You've got Office Lens, a powerful app that I use almost daily to scan documents. I mean, document scanning, that is so last decade. We scan documents on our cell phone now, and they instantly sync to our desktop and to the cloud. And certainly OneNote and SharePoint and OneDrive and Word, we've got all this available. And then, yeah, we've got Teams available here. So one thing Microsoft is just committed to, and one of the reasons that they are the second most valuable company in the world at somewhere about $1.3 trillion, is because they've fully committed to mobile. And whether you're running Android or an iPhone, they are committed to having the best apps available out there. They understand that the world's gone mobile. So mobile works in a Microsoft world. So as we head down the home stretch here, I'll go back to the PowerPoint and say that the world is changing, and the youth of America are invading our workspace. You know, it's fascinating. I was at a customer the other day and asked them how do they communicate with their remote offices. They have offices in Europe, and the answer was WhatsApp. They're using WhatsApp to communicate with Europe. So that's, I mean, I was shocked. That's how the world is changing. I talked to another customer about how do they communicate with their drivers and so on. The answer is text messaging. The world is changing. This application called Teams gives you the ability to do exactly that. Video conversations, to do essentially texting in a very secure environment with full history, and deliver to your workplace a tool that multi-generations want to work with, and that is a mobile device and different ways to access information.
Exactly.
By the way, do things move faster? I said the fax machine, I said the 1-800 conference call machine. I am shocked at i3 Business Solutions how many times we pull 3, 4, 5 people in and start a conversation, move to a decision in 8 minutes rather than a half a day or a day. That's how things are changing. We're moving at the speed of communication, and that's the impact that Teams is having on I3 and other organizations are seeing. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'll go in the other direction a little bit. As I do many of these demos, it's one of the biggest questions that comes up as they talk to their employees is, I already have email, I already have voicemail, I have all these other places where I need to communicate. Why do I want one more piece of communication? And at first, it can be a hard one to really get through to them. But as you start to go down the road of seeing how this integrates with all the applications that you already use, where it does make things a little bit easier and more efficient than you had before. Maybe one of them is that I used to get up and interrupt somebody to ask them a question. Now I can do chat, and I can, look at what their status is and decide whether now is a good time to do it or not. I can share a file within a chat, so make it easy for people to see that file. And again, we talked about with email, when you send this big long thread of emails back and forth, and or you attach a file that then gets many different versions of it before everybody gets confused as to which one's which. It's changing some of the way that we do the communication now, but it really becomes a very efficient thing to use, and it's been great for us and many of the companies we've worked with. So I'd probably say to encourage you that, if you're considering it, we're happy to come in and review it with you and give you some ideas of how it should work and go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tim. Yep, that's it. Accelerate business results, move faster, be more productive. Technology marches on, and Teams is an effective tool to be more productive. Mike Ritzma, Tim Nass, signing off.